It feels like such a futile situation if this occurs, like this position, because I really think that you have to have the conversations first about what it is that you would do and agree on it.
My ex-husband left me, and after 4 years of IVF, we have embryos in storage. We have one beautiful little IVF baby girl who is my entire world. But I would love to make her a big sister one day too. He has so easily just said, hey, let's just donate the spare embryos. I am mortified by how easily he has suggested this and absolutely am not interested in donating. I want them. They are my babies. I walked through the toughest times of my life undergoing IVF, and on my 8th transfer, I got my beautiful girl. I'm 33 and I don't know if I should freeze my eggs now and then get a sperm donor or wait until I might meet someone. PSA, I will continue to pay for storage for my embryo babies as I love them too. I also didn't see our marriage being something that would end, but he clearly fell out of love with me and left me 10 months postpartum.
Gosh, oh my God, that is so hard.
That's so hard. And I'm so sorry that you're going through this. There's no clear-cut answer here, but the one clear-cut thing is, unfortunately, to use embryos, you need to have both parties say that it's okay. You need to have consent from both parties, even if the embryos have been made. So Ben and I have embryos, and we both have to say yes when it's time to actually implant them or donate them or whatever it is. It has to be consensual from both parties. So this is obviously the issue here is you don't agree on what you should do. It sounds like the only thing that he is going to agree on is that he doesn't want, from the sound of it, he doesn't want you to use them.
I have a question for you, Britt. It's very personal. Did you and Ben have a big conversation prior around all of the options? Like if you break up, what happens to those embryos? If you stay together but you have more than the amount of children you want to have, what do you do with them? Did you have that conversation before you froze embryos?
Yeah, we did. We did have that conversation, and we went so far as to talk about if one of us dies, what happens? Because that's a whole nother question. If someone unexpectedly dies.
I feel like if someone dies, like go for gold. I'm not here to stop you.
Well, no,
have them all.
You have. It's not a. You still have to have that written down legally. So
Yeah.
you have. Everyone has to have that discussion, and you have to have said what you want, because there's no. Oh well, he's passed away. Like I think that's why Elodie Pullen, when we spoke to her, it was so difficult for her to do what she did. And in case you don't know, that Elodie's partner Chumpy passed away really suddenly in a shallow water blackout, and within like 24 hours they had retrieved sperm from him to use. But that was very difficult because they had to go to his family really quickly, get all this consent, get lawyers involved within like a 24-hour period. It's not easy.
So talk to me about what you guys decided.
Well, we decided, I said that if I passed away, for example, I said Ben can still have them if he wants. If he wants to go and have that baby, like with a surrogate, that's fine. But I didn't let him use my eggs because I have eggs and embryos. So I don't want him to go and just go for gold after I'm gone. I just said, look, we already have babies. You can use them. I also said that I would donate them to my sister because you can put people that you want to donate down. But we didn't pick a certain option if we split, other than we both have to agree. So you don't have to write down that they'll be disposed or that they'll be donated. But we both did agree that we would happily donate them. If we both agreed we don't want them and we're separating, I said I'm happy for someone else to use our baby because if I can help someone else in their life, but I don't want to know the person. That was my issue. So I don't want to watch my baby grow up in the next suburb. That was just a personal decision for me. But if I can give someone else that life, then I said yeah.
Also, donation doesn't just mean donation to a separate family who may want to use them. You can also choose to donate them to medical research.
Yes.
So embryonic cells, they're stem cells, right? So you can, through different processes, turn them into different types of cells that you may want to use to study. And so a lot of people, instead of having their embryos destroyed, they can choose to put them down a medical research route as well. But it comes up with a lot of ethical questions. A lot of people feel uncomfortable about that because of the emotional connection that they have to the embryos.
Yeah, absolutely. This is such a hard one, and I feel so genuinely fortunate that I've never had to walk this path. So I don't want to give people advice, and I don't really want to tell people the impression that I have or the way in which I would navigate this, because I've simply never been in that situation, and what a privilege that is. I think though, and this is not answering these questions, it's more so to people who are considering this for the future. I really think that you have to have the conversations first about what it is that you would do and agree on it. And I think even in your situation, Britt, it's kind of tricky because I know that you kind of say, okay, well, if we break up, we're going to come to an agreement. We can't do anything unless we both agree. But then what if you find yourself in a situation where you simply cannot agree, which is exactly what's happened to this couple? And it's almost like going into marriage and talking about, okay, well, how are we going to navigate things if we separate? It's another one of those big decisions that you have to make in life.
Well, the thing is here, and I say this from experience, I understand how she's feeling because, and like you just said, Keeshia, it's easy to say, yes, you can donate them to research. But I never thought, I don't even know how to explain it. I never thought I would have an attachment to an embryo.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've always been pro-abortion, and I always thought if I was in a position that I fell pregnant and needed to have an abortion, I always thought I could easily do that. I've never been in that position. I'm very lucky. Then when I had these embryos, and you guys might remember, but when I did my first round and I only got the one, and then it was not viable with life, and I had to, I don't even know what they call it, destroy it. I don't know the term, but you have to destroy it. There was this real sadness that I felt because I was like, it's actually my baby now. Like Ben and I have created that, and I know that that would turn into our child. And it was this really weird feeling of it's a cell. It's so small. It's not. But then there was this attachment that I had to it.
Well, it's the start of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, it is the child, right? It's made. It's just that it's still at that cellular tiny level. But I understand why you have said you're happy to keep paying for your storage because you don't want to have that. You don't want to make the decision where you're saying they're gone. I'm going to either destroy them or donate them. Unfortunately for you here, all you can do, and this is what my suggestion would be, if you know you don't want to donate them to someone else, you don't have to. You can't use them unless your husband says to. So I think your best option here is if you've said you're happy to keep paying for storage, you can only pay for it for, I think it's 10 years. So if you want to hold on to those and keep paying for the storage and see what happens over the next 10 years, that's what I would suggest you do. You don't really have that many other options because you both need to agree. So your only option now is to hold on to it and hope that maybe he changes his mind, or maybe you feel a little bit differently about what you want to do with them. But I really feel for you. I really do.
It feels like such a futile situation if this occurs, like this position, because paying for storage is not cheap. So you're then throwing money away for within 1 decade to be told that you have to make a decision regardless. So you are essentially just kicking that decision down the track, and you're not only kicking the decision down the track, you're throwing money away by doing that as well. And that doesn't seem like a responsible decision. It feels like you're almost offsetting a big and hard decision that you have to make because you don't want to make it now. And I would guess that if you and your husband have separated and he's made it clear that he doesn't want you to use those embryos, I don't think he's going to change his mind. Maybe in this very, very clear situation, and to respond to this person's question, sit down and have a really honest conversation with your ex-husband around this, around how hard this is for you, whether or not there is an option for you to use them. And if he's very clear and black and white on it, then I think it would make more sense to make that decision now rather than trying to make it in 10 years' time when it's taken away from you anyway. It's going to hurt just as much. But also, you did ask one other question here. You said, I'm 33. I don't know if I should freeze my eggs and get a sperm donor or just wait and see if I meet someone. If people have the opportunity to, and they have the access to the funds, because it's obviously not cheap, it's always a great idea to consider whether or not you want to freeze your eggs, because it gives you more options down the track potentially. So if you want to do that now as a 33-year-old, freeze your eggs just in case, it might give you a sense of like, okay, there's more time to make decisions in that sense, rather than holding on to these embryos that you have to make a decision about at some point. I think egg freezing could be a really good option to give you peace of mind.
Remember when, this has still been going on until recently, Sofia Vergara from Modern Family, her and her ex-husband, you guys might know, his name's Nick Loeb, but they have been in an open court battle for years about their embryos because they split. So they had embryos, they split. Sofia doesn't want them and her ex does. And it is such a hard discussion because he's saying they're still my children, like I still want them to live. And she's saying, yeah, but they're mine too and I don't. I can't imagine that feeling when two people feel so passionately about their unborn child. But ultimately, she will always win. Like ultimately, two people have to say, so they won't ever be created. But this was like a 3-year court battle.
I want to be careful with using the words like unborn child, because for a lot of people, they are just a collection of cells and they are a potential of hope. I think that it can get very ethically ambiguous when we're talking about, comparing frozen embryos and a collection of 8 cells to a child. But for the person who's written this question in, I think the reason that this is even more complex for you is because you do have an IVF baby. So you do have the result of one of those embryos being transferred. And so for her, I think there's a lot of an emotional connection to them because there's the possibility that you could have that love again, and that's maybe why you're finding it so hard to let go of.
And I do think that that's really important only from the perspective of and I talk about this as someone who has had an abortion. I don't conflate my abortion as being the same as the children that I've had. And there will be people who disagree with this.
Absolutely,
there will be people who, there will be, absolutely. But I do think that there is a point as to which that changes. And obviously everybody has different feelings around this, but it's very hard to be pro-choice and also sit on the fence of being at every single stage of conception, that is a baby, that is a real human. So I think that there is it's a really ethically hard question to unpack.
It's because it's also linked to whatever your current situation is. This feels different because it wasn't easy for you. You did 8 rounds to get your one child. And you know that your hope, exactly like you said, Laura, your hope and your chance remains in that freezer. And I think that's going back to Sophia and her husband. That's probably exactly the same feeling. He might very well feel like that could be his only chance. He might also very well feel like that is his link to stay connected to his ex. That is his link to money from his ex. You do not know the situation and it is so murky. But yeah, like I just said, there's no other option here for you to do other than continue to pay your storage and have those conversations with your ex-husband.
Yeah, far out. It's such a big ethical decision, isn't it?